When the heart stops beating, it is only part of the dying process. The person is only partially dead. Let us not take it that that is the end of it all. And that is called clinical death. The person is clinically dead. When that happens, when the heart stops beating, there is no circulation of blood, nor breathing. Very critical activities of precious importance to the spirit are however taking place within that period. So let us not think that when the heart stops beating, that is the end of it all. Very, very serious activities are taking place. The ego, or the spirit, with its three bodies, namely the vital body, the desire body, and the mental body, they float above the head of the dense body for roughly 3.5 days. Therefore, it does not mean that when the heart stops beating, then all activities of the spirit are over. No. For 3.5 days, the spiritual bodies are floating above the head of the dead person. And some cells, especially in the head area, are still responsive to impact. In Revelations chapter 11 verse 9, we are told, "And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3.5 days, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves." That period, that 3.5 days period, when the heart stops beating, when the person is clinically dead, is the most precious time for the person who has just died. There should be quietness in the house of death. Why are we saying that the 3.5 days, when the heart stops beating, are the most important for the person who has just died? We will explain. The vital body is the vehicle used immediately after death to transfer the impressions of the seed atom in the heart to the seed atom of the desired body. During this work, the seed atom that is connected to the silver cord is ruptured, but the silver cord has not snapped. Until the silver cord breaks, the person somehow is still sensitive to external impacts. The ego, or the spirit, is still conscious of its vehicles, feeling and suffering to some extent when the body is disturbed or hurt or mishandled. When the higher vehicles have left the dense body, they are still connected with it by a slender, glistening, silvery cord shaped much like two figure sixes, reversed, one upright and one horizontally placed. The two connected at the extremities of the hooks. They are connected, one at the top, one down. They are connected. One end is fastened to the heart by means of the seed atoms, and it is the rupture of the seed atom which causes the heart to stop beating. And we show a picture of the silver cord, how the higher aspect and the lower aspect are connected. At the joint, we have the seed atom, and the point of separation is where both sixes meet. And there we have the seed atom. The silver cord itself is not snapped until the panorama of the life lived by the deceased, contained in the vital body, has been reviewed. The dead person will have to review the information contained in the seed atom. The silver cord snaps at the point where the sixes unite, half remaining with the dense body and the other half with the higher vehicles. From the time the cord snaps, from the time that the silver cord breaks, the dense body is finally dead. What may be said to be biologically dead. So, there is a difference between clinically dead and biologically dead. And we have said that when a person is clinically dead, it refers to only the stoppage of the heartbeat as well as circulation of blood and breathing. But for 3.5 days, the dead person is still sensitive to certain external impacts, in the sense that the higher vehicles, the vital body, the desire body, and the mind, they float over the dead body. And within that 3.5 days, the records of the lives that the person led in this life are being played, are being taken away into the next higher bodies of the dead person. So within that moment, it is critical for quietness to prevail in the area of death. When the seed atom has broken in the heart and the individual has been released from his or her dense body, a moment of highest importance comes to the spirit or the ego. It is a great crime. It is actually a crime against the departing soul or the departing person to give expression of loud grief and lamentations. For it is just then engaged in a matter of supreme importance and a great deal of value of the past life, depending upon how much attention the dead person can give to that matter, and that matter is to pick the records of the life that he or she has led. We keep repeating this because it is the most important thing for every human being, taking along the records of the life that you have led on earth. It is also a crime against the dying person to administer stimulants which have the effect of forcing the higher vehicles back into the dense body with a jerk, thus impacting a great shock. Yes, we have medicine that can be administered to a dying person to recall the higher vehicles back into the dense body, but that is not the best. It is actually a crime against the person who is dying. It is no toucher to pass out, but it is a toucher to be dragged back into the dense body to continue to suffer. It is also of great pain to the dead when the body is quickly buried after death, because the body will be mishandled, and the mishandling of the body is a disturbance to the picking of the records of the dead person. During panorama, during the review of life, the spirit is engaged in reviewing the sins of its past life, which have been impressed on the permanent seed atom in the heart, as we have already said. These impressions, these pictures, these records have been left on the seed atom through the blood. It's the blood that carries all this information, and they are recorded in the seed atom. The Bible teaches that the spirit is in the blood. Without the blood, the spirit cannot function. That is to say, the blood is the direct vehicle of the spirit. The whole of the life led passes before the sight of the dead person, like a panorama, like watching a cinema or video. The events being presented in reverse order. The pictures that flow before the perception of the dead person, those pictures are played in a reverse order. The incidents of the days immediately preceding death comes first, and so on, back through manhood or womanhood, to youth, to childhood, and infancy. Everything is seen by the spirit, all those records, when they are played back in a reverse order. In lecture number 15, we talked about the spiritual exercise of retrospection. So if we perform this exercise each night in our lifetime as we live now, we will facilitate the review process after death and achieve results faster than if we do not do it at all. So the dead person stands as a spectator before his own panorama, his own records of life. He or she sees the pictures as they pass, and they impress themselves upon his or her higher vehicles. But she or he has no feelings about them at that time. That is reserved until the time when the dead person enters the desire world, which is the world of feeling and emotion. And we have talked about the desire world in our presentations. At present, the dead person is only in the etheric region of this physical world. So when a person dies immediately, the person is in the etheric region of this physical world. This panorama, a review of your own life records, lasts from a few hours to several days, depending upon the length of time the person could keep awake if necessary. So if the dead person can keep awake for a longer period, it is most likely the dead will review his or her own experiences in a longer time. Some people can keep awake only 12 hours or even less. Others can do so upon occasion for a number of days, but as long as the person remains awake, this panorama lasts. When the spirit is disturbed during the transfer, the impressions, the records are dimly etched. They are not properly etched. They are not properly transferred. And the spirit, in returning to rebirth in the next embodiment, does not bring with it intense sense of conscience as it would have done if the etching had been clear-cut. Because in the desire world, the spirit was not able to feel remorse for the wrong things that it has done on earth, or to be joyful over the good things that it has done, or because it did not have the opportunity to impress strongly on itself those records, or those records had been disturbed by the living, so the spirit could not intensely, strongly transfer those records. Noise and mishandling of the body immediately after death distort and prevents the dead from transferring records of its good and bad actions which it must face after death in order to strengthen conscience and virtue when it comes back to rebirth. Accuracy of records is important for reformation and spiritual enhancement of the spirit. Let us look at the panorama of life. And we say that the panorama of life is the ego or the spirit's review of past life without any feelings attached. This panorama has to be fully etched into the desired body. At the end of it, the silver cord breaks, and the spirit, the dead person, is free from its earthly house. Once the silver cord breaks, the dead person or the spirit is free of this dense body. It wouldn't use it anymore. That is to say, when the endurance of the vital body has reached its limit, it collapses, just as we fall asleep. So when the records are played, depending on the endurance of the ego or the spirit or the dead person, then the vital body collapses. And that collapse is just like how we also fall asleep. During physical life, when the spirit or ego controls its vehicles, this collapse terminates the waking hours. We fall into sleep. After death, the collapse of the vital body terminates the panorama and forces the person to withdraw to the next world, which is the desire world. And as we said, the panorama on the average lasts from a few hours to 3.5 days. Those 3.5 days are very, very important. And we said that the length of time is dependent upon the strength of the vital body of the person. So there is no fixed period that 1 hour, 2 hours, this particular person will have finished with the panorama. No, it depends on the dead person and the strength of the vital body to stand, watching its own deeds. Some persons can last for 50, 60, and 70 hours before they fall down exhausted in this review. But others, a few hours, and they have collapsed. They couldn't review their own life experiences. The person stands as a spectator while the pictures succeed one another in reverse order. We said in this presentation there will be some repetition in order to deepen certain facts. And we are repeating again that after death, immediately after death, the dead person stands as a spectator while watching the pictures succeed one another in reverse order from death to birth, so that the dead person sees first the happenings just prior to death, what happens immediately before death. Then the years of manhood or womanhood, the youthful stage, the childhood stage, and the infancy stage follows until it terminates at birth. So it's really playing back all the way to birth. The person, however, has no feeling about them at that time. So when the panorama is being played, there is no feeling at all attached to it. The object is merely to etch the panorama into the desired body. The object of these first pictures is to transfer the records to the desired body, which is the seat of feeling, and from that impress, the feeling will be realized when the spirit goes to the next world, which is the desired world. Note that, we are repeating again, note that the intensity of feeling realized depends upon the length of time consumed in the process of etching and the attention given to the transfer by the dead person. If undisturbed for a long period by noise and hysteria, a deep, clear-cut impress will be made upon the desired body. The dead person will feel the wrong done more keenly in purgatory and be more abundantly strengthened in good qualities in the first heaven. So, making the place of death quiet and peaceful is the most important way we can help the dead, especially 3.5 days after death. Although the experience will be lost in a future life, the feelings will remain as the still, small voice. This voice will speak in no vague and uncertain terms. It will impel the person beyond naysaying, forcing him or her to desist from what caused pain in a life before, and compel him or her to do what is good. Therefore, the panorama passes backwards so that the ego or spirit sees first the effects and then later the underlying causes. That is why these pictures are played backwards.
Filling up every space, no privacy. And silently, it could build and build until you finally see. Whoa, it's taking over, damn no closure, moving closer. No exposure, I just wanna be a loner. Some can't stay sober, looking over all this.